Hey guys, yours truly still here discussing the season finale of Agatha All Along. Now I'm gonna be real honest, I'm always kind of worried about Marvel finales. I think, a great show like Wandavision had an amazing concept and they executed well, and then at the end it kind of turned into a CGI mess. Same thing with Moon Knight, kind of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, definitely with Miss Marvel, Secret Invasion, I don't even want to talk about. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in my goddamn life. The weird arm CGI, like it was so bad. But I was very pleasantly surprised with Agatha All Along one. They split it up into 2 episodes, which had 2 totally different vibes, but they worked together. The conjunction of both of them kind of like filled what you needed from closure of the episode. I think just kind of like popping in right after the last episode, Patti LuPone's character Lilia died, and everybody's kind of distraught, and you had that sad song at the end, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're back on the road, and you have one last trial, and we kind of have to solve this thing. So when we do appear back on the road, marching towards the last challenge, and Agatha's distraught. She's kind of just messed up of everything that's happening, and she doesn't know if she's going to do it. She's filled with self-doubt, and you could read this all in her face. And then Death appears, Aubrey Plaza's character, and it was funny to see because their dynamic is so, it changes kind of every scene. Certain scenes they look like they're lovers, certain scenes it looks like they're just straight enemies. The first episode they were literally having a huge fight. It was good to watch just because you can just see the tension is real between them. And Rio kind of just explains that, hey, I'm owed a death. I don't care if it's Billy, I don't care if it's this other girl, Jen, I don't care if it's you, I'm owed a death and I'm here to collect. So of course Agatha being, Jack Sparrow coded, she's like, I'll get you somebody, probably Wiccan, and I'll be fine. And they put on their shoes and they appear in the last challenge. This is a very clean room with lights kind of all around counting down as they're going out. And, Wiccan appears, Agatha appears, and they're in these body bags, and they struggle to get out, and of course they're in different clothes again, and they realize that there's not really instruction in this last one. They kind of have to figure out what the last challenge is by themselves, and each one of them kind of do get somewhat closure. So it's kind of like a very emotional episode. In the first kind of part of the challenge, Jen finds out that Agatha is the one who bound her. The reason she has no powers is her. So she rips off some of her hair, she kind of binds her hands, and she does this chant that eventually releases her. And as she's chanting this and it releases her, she disappears. She's out of the scene, leaving Wiccan and Agatha kind of confused. And then they realize they have to kind of, get closure to leave and to get what they want. So Agatha, seeing this, knows that she has to help Teen. She goes up to him. She makes him sit down. She realizes he wants to find his brother. So she kind of forces him to close his eyes and say, you know where he is. You have the power to find this and find out where he is. And through this, he sees another child dying, through bullying, which is kind of sad. And, he asks, am I killing this kid to save my brother? And as soon as he asks this question, he's gone. He's gone too. And we realize that, this character probably will be his brother. We don't really know much after that. But then, Agatha's there by herself, and, the lights are kind of clinking down. She realizes she might not make it. And, she's thinking about her son, and she grabs a flower and she connects it to her tear, and this hole that's in the ground, she plants it. And that kind of, I guess, gives her the closure she needs about her son, and the room starts collapsing, and she kind of comes out of the ground, and she's in the backyard, and the road is over. She's done. But she hasn't gotten her prize. She hasn't gotten anything. She just sees death. Aubrey Plaza's character is sitting there, cackling away, wanting her prize. And like I said earlier, I'm always kind of scared they turn into a CGI battle. And they, it is Marvel. You do need some kind of fighting. You do need some of this. And that's kind of what happens. We see Wiccan in his comic-accurate clothes float down, kind of help Agatha, and they're fighting death. But, you can't fight death. It's like taxes. She's just going to keep coming back. You can't defeat her. So Wiccan says he's going to, sacrifice himself. And she's like, oh, okay, I don't care. He kind of blasted her, and she received some of her power. She got her swag back. She got her clothes back. She doesn't really need him. And then he kind of appeals to her greater nature, probably using her son. And she walks right up to Death and kisses her. And this is kind of what was advertised. It was going to be the first, girl and girl kiss. And of course, it's a kiss of death. You know what I'm saying? Can't just be something happy. Can't be like, oh, they're going to live happily ever after. It's like, oh, no, she kisses her. She dies. And this happens. Death is satisfied. Looks at Wick and goes, you can go. And he kind of walks to a car, which is so weird. Like, imagine the Hulk, in Hulk form, beating this battle cigar. I'm going to get in my Honda now. I'm going to drive away. But, that's what happens. And I was actually really happy how that ended, because it wasn't overdone. Everybody got what they needed. Jen gets her powers. She flies off, leaves Westview. Wiccan has somewhat of an idea of where his brother is, and Agatha's dead and Death is happy, and he goes back to his room. His parents are freaked out, he's covered in blood, obviously. And then as the last scene is kind of happening, he starts looking around his room and realizes that, you know, everything that was on the road is kind of inspired by his room, and he starts having a panic attack, and then all of a sudden he hears a voice. The episode ends. And after that episode, I was kind of shocked. I was like, you know, like, what's this cliffhanger? What else do we have to kind of see in the rest of this series? But then the rest of the Coven appears, and it looks like they're gonna head towards the last challenge. But when they get there, they see that they're at the beginning of the road. There is no last challenge. They find their shoes that they left in the third episode, and they really don't know what to do. They kind of have like a little mini argument. But as the next episode starts, we see kind of a time jump, you know, towards the past, and we see Agatha giving birth to her child. We kind of realize that everything that we kind of hear about Agatha is wrong. She didn't trade her child for the Darkhold. She is an evil character. She's killed a lot of people. We're not gonna, you know, see she's a hero or anything like that. But she isn't what people expect of her. And she has a child, and she looks at death, and, you know, she begs for more time. She begs for more time, and death gives it to her. And we see Nicholas Scratch kind of grow up, and it's the vibe of the episode almost seems like it's the first episode of the series. You know, it doesn't kind of refer anything to the past of it. It just shows Agatha and her child going around, teaching each other, you know, how to be witches, living together. And as he grows up, he sees that his mom just keeps killing witches. And he asks, like, why do I have to do it? And she's like, we have to for our safety. And, you know, basically without telling him, she's saying, like, if I don't kill these people, death is going to come for you. And as sad as that is, you know, it's true, because when Nicholas finally says, I don't want you to kill any more witches, they don't for a day, and that's the night he dies. You know, death appears, makes Nicholas kiss his mother one more time, because in the end she does, you know, kind of have feelings for her, but takes him. And, you know, you go from this emotionally, like, not nothing episode, but to this sad episode, and seeing Agatha cry over her, and seeing what finally breaks her and makes her this villain. You know, it's kind of shocking to see. And then you realize that the Witch's Road isn't real. It's kind of just an illusion, just how, like, Wanda created the town, created the vision, created everything. When Wicca needed the road to appear, it appeared. And once you watch this series from episode 1 again, which I have, you see that so much of this is layered. Even when he appears on the road the first time, he says, oh wow, it's just like I pictured it. And Agatha's staring at him because, like, yeah, the road is fake. I made this up. It is a con. Nobody gets their powers. Nobody gets anything. I just use it as an excuse to get witches mad at me. They'd blast me with their power. I'd steal their power. And then, you know, we're good. There's even a fun montage of that where you see them go through the decades. And my favorite one is the 90s, because they're totally referencing the Craft, the movie with Fairuza Balk. And, you know, they're dressed in leather, and she's just kind of like stealing these witches' powers. And I think Marvel needs to take more kind of an adventure. Marvel needs to take more of a risk with these kind of stories and tell more stories from the villain's perspective. You know, we got that with Infinity War. You know, you could argue Infinity War is Thanos' movie, just with the Avengers in it. And Agatha is the villain. It's her story. And you kind of get this, you know, broader sense of what is right, what is wrong for each person. And I think Marvel kind of needs that. Everything that they didn't do right in The Acolyte, they did right in Agatha. You know, they had this total cringe song in episode 3, The Power of One, and on the flip side you have this Witch's Road ballad where, like, you know, I'm humming this on my days off. You know, like, every verse of it was good in its own way. And it's kind of funny when they're arguing with, like, that's not the right lyric. She's like, I wrote this 200 years ago with my son. Don't tell me what the lyrics are, you know? I was a little disappointed at the end there was no extra scene. Not that I think we need one, but I think it's kind of a Marvel trademark. It doesn't even have to do with anything, but it's always kind of fun. I think we needed a little closure with Wanda. You know, they're kind of just dodging the question, is she alive? You know, she's obviously alive, she's coming back, but, you know, something, even if it's her hand, like, in a little twitch at the end, or like under the rubble, you know, something. I don't know if we're going to get another series of this. I doubt it. I don't think there's going to be an Agatha season 2. I think, you know, she's dead. She's a ghost. She's basically the character she was in the comics, where as a ghost she kind of helped Wanda. Now she's going to be helping Wiccan, you know, probably find her and find out everything he needs, and teaching him how to be an actual witch. I think the show Vision Quest, that's going to be coming out in, I think, next year. That'll kind of be, you know, it'll be Wandavision, Agatha, and Vision Quest will kind of, like, take over that, you know, storyline of what, you know, that part of the story is for the MCU. The twist that the road was never real never occurred to me. You know, I think part of the reason the show is so good is that, like, you really didn't kind of predict things, and I'm excited to see more. I'll be back next week. We're gonna be talking about the Penguin. If you guys have any questions, comments, anything you want me to talk about, just go to Culture Slate. We have a couple of web pages where we talk about DC, Marvel, you know, Lord of the Rings, anything that people are kind of talking about in that type of atmosphere we're going to be listening to. We have a couple of the podcasts. The Lost Holocron will return when James is able to, and we'll probably talk about everything we've talked about here and go on to the next thing. I'm excited to see you. Go to Culture Slate for the best news in pop culture and entertainment. My name is Milhouse. I'll see you next week. All right, have a good night, guys.